Hi everybody, welcome to Old Comic Recommendations. You notice behind me that I'm in a different room. I decided to move out to the garage, got a new computer that's much better than the ones in the other room, and I can't afford to get the other ones fixed up right now. So I'm out here doing it here in the garage with my comic collection, which is behind me. And I have a quite extensive collection at that, and I'm working on them. So anyway, this week on Old Comic Recommendations, we're going to be talking about the JLA Avengers crossover. And this crossover came out in September of 2003 to March of 2004. The writer was Kurt Busiek, great writer by the way. Artist, of course, the phenomenal George Perez, and I believe it was inked by George Perez. To me, this is one of the greatest team-up books that were done out of all the Marvel DC crossovers. And I'm not besmirching the other ones. They were great too. I enjoyed all of them. But this one had a lot of fun in it because you had the two biggest super groups going against each other and then eventually working with each other. During this time, I'm going to be showing pages from the book, artwork from the book, things like that. I'll also have some other pages from the unfinished project that was approximately 20 years ago or so. So anyway, on with it. This is the second time that this book is being done. The first time was tried back in late 1982, and it was kind of a mess. It became a mess. It started off with good intentions, and then it kind of fell apart. I believe it was both sides that caused this problem. I mean, no one can really stand up and take ownership of it. I just think it's either a clash of the egos or it's a clash of the companies or whatever it was. I really don't care because we were denied a different storyline. Same artist. The original writer was Gary Conway, and the artist was George Perez. They didn't list an inker, so I'm putting it as George has a possibly inking it himself too, because he is a pretty talented inker. The book was supposed to be a one-shot that was 64 pages. So, like I say, the project just went through him and that. They did this, they did that. We're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. And eventually, by May of '84, it was officially canceled. During that time, George Perez did draw 21 pages of artwork from it. And those pages were later on, after it was canceled, given to George Perez. And I'm showing them here. I'm going to be showing you some of the pages here from the book, because inside the limited edition book, which I held up the cover to, they have this. And this gives you the artwork that George Perez drew back in 1983. Excuse me. Anyway, later on, George, from what I read, sold the pages to Rob Liefeld, who I think leaked them out or let them get leaked out, or he showed them that, they later came on the internet because you can find some of them on there. Or you can buy this book, which unfortunately is a limited run book. So anyway, 20 years later, the project is then brought up, and it is approved this time by both companies. The writer now is Kurt Busiek, with George Perez drawing and inking this series. And I was so thankful to see George Perez drawing it. And actually, I was very thankful Kurt Busiek wrote it, because he's a very talented writer. If you ever get a chance, I recommend looking up some of his better stuff. Did some Avengers, did some DC stuff. He also did a great alternate series I highly recommend called Astro City. But anyway, I was working in a very popular comic book store in Sacramento, California called A1 Comics. Shameless plug there. And when it came out, that thing sold like hotcakes. I'm serious, man. We blew up the first issue and the second issue within days, because no one ever orders enough of this stuff, because we're never quite sure what happens with it. Is it going to be good or is it going to be bad? But we managed to get it, and people loved it. They just loved it. And again, because a lot of people talked about was George Perez's fantastic artwork in it. This artwork was just beautiful, and this guy loves to draw as many heroes in a story as he can. I'm telling you, if you get this book, you're going to see almost virtually every character and even villains that both sides had, Marvel and DC, are in this in some form. And I loved it. It was like the phenom to read at the time. But anyway, Kurt Busiek, of course, did the story. Guy's smart. He's a very good storyteller. He knows his stuff, and he shows it when he writes these stories. So I'm going to give you a little tidbit about it and a little idea. I'm not going to tell you about the whole thing. This story begins with two universes dying, one in the Marvel Universe, one in the DC Universe. The Marvel Universe, a lot of you people probably won't recognize. I don't think this character has shown up anytime recently. It's the universe that had a character called Archon, who I always felt was kind of a Conan-type character. He used to, I think he threw lightning bolts of power and stuff. He fought the Avengers in like the 60s, maybe 70s at some point. He was there to get a power source and another reason later on for something else. Anyway, over there in that one, you find out that he is with, either married or a consort or whatever, a superhero, I think came from the Thing comic books, called Thundra. Anyway, they're in this universe, and then something happens, they go outside, they're going to go fight it, and whoosh, they're gone. That simple. Whole universe out of here. Alright, the next universe that dies, I was really kind of sorry to see again, was the universe that has the crime syndicate in it. Alright, and they're doing their usual bad things of conquering worlds and just having a great time doing it too, Hate to ruin people's fun like that. But anyway, they look up and all of a sudden there's this big giant effect going on, and all of a sudden they're gone. Now the crime syndicate, for those who don't know who they are, they have Ultraman, which is an evil Superman. They have Superwoman, which is probably a cross between Supergirl and Wonder Woman. They have Johnny Quick, which is the Flash. They have Owlman, which is Batman and Power Ring. Well, they all died back in Crisis on Infinite Earths #1. So in this one, they died in this universe too. So I don't know, maybe in the next universe they might last longer. Well, what we see then after that is we see a Marvel villain, I think. I'm not sure if he's really a villain or not. He seems like he does some stuff for the good of everybody, but he's called the Grandmaster. His claim to fame was the first Contest of Champions mini-series, which was a pretty good series back then. And he's kind of like a chess master. He always wants to bet against things. He's like a gigantic gambler with a lot of power. He was also, I think, in the Avengers movies. He ends up meeting an alien being. He's this big blue guy. And his name is called Krona, and he is an ex-guardian of the universe, from the Owens, who create the Green Lantern Corps. He's one of them guys, except he's not a little short dude. Here he's a big tall guy. So anyway, this guy Krona, if you don't know his background, real briefly, he was part of the original Guardians, and he wanted to find out the origin of creation. Who created everything? All these alternate universes, everything. And he wants to find out. So he goes messing around with that and breaks a lot of Owen laws. And he gets in trouble, and he shows up now and then throughout time. But this time he's got enough power to do stuff. He's the one that destroyed those two universes I mentioned. So anyway, Krona and him meet each other, and they talk about what he's going to do, and Grandmaster's kind of looking at him like, holy smokes, this guy looks like he might be a powerful dude. And then it kind of just goes away from that, and the next scene you see is the Justice League of America is fighting an Avengers villain called Terminus. He's this big giant metal guy with the scepter and stuff. He likes to destroy things. He's an alien from outer space also. Anyway, the Avengers, or this JLA, take him down. He's disposed of, and they start wondering, like, who's he from? They analyze him and stuff, and I think they're trying to get to the bottom of it when the Grandmaster shows up. And he shows up telling them, you know what, guys? Your universe is in trouble. There's somebody going to destroy your whole universe. And I'm here from another universe with heroes, too, that want to stop this guy from destroying this one and the other universe, which, of course, is the Marvel. That's kind of paraphrasing a lot of it. But anyway, he goes, you have to go find these 12 mystical items, 6 of which they're mystical items in Marvel, and 6 are mystical items in DC. Now, if you're an old-timer like me and have read a lot of DC comics, you'll recognize probably all of the mystical items. So it's pretty fun. So then you flip over to the next universe, which is Marvel, and you see those guys fighting a big, giant, monster-sized, huge starfish. And if you don't know who the starfish is, then you didn't watch Suicide Squad #2, or you didn't read Brave and Bold #28, where the Justice League fought Starro. And that's his name, Starro. So they fight him. It's really kind of fun to watch them react to the fact they get these little starfish in their face, and they stick, they get turned into mindless drones. It's kind of fun to read that. But anyway, they end up destroying him, or getting rid of him, I should say. You don't ever destroy Starro. They got rid of him and sent him back in outer space. So what happens is they get visited by a DC person called Metron. He's of the New God fame. And he comes over and tells them the same story that the Grandmaster tells him. Look, man, your universe is in trouble. We're going to all get killed, and the universe is destroyed, so we got to find these 12 mystical artifacts, and we got to get those and give them to me so we can get together and stop this catastrophe. So, again, both sides are meeting this with some skepticism, because it's hard to believe, this guy shows up out of nowhere. But anyway, that's how it starts, and this thing is fun to read. You're gonna like it. It's 4 books, to read, and just lots of things going on. I'll give you a couple of things that I thought was really cool in it that you can look forward to. First one is they have a scene where Darkseid gets a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet because both Earths are going to merge together and things are starting to flip back and forth. And Darkseid finds the Infinity Gauntlet. Gee, I wonder what he does with that. And then next, they have a great scene where Krona finds out in the Marvel Universe who he needs to talk to. And who would that be? Galactus. And he goes to Galactus and he starts demanding them to tell him stuff. And Galactus goes, "You don't tell me what to do, dude. I'm Galactus. I'm the big cheese here." And then, you have to read on to see what happens in that little encounter. But my favorite thing in this of all, because I'm an old Superman fan, and I love Superman. New one, not so much anymore. He's not like the old one. The old one, up until about 10 years ago, I thought was a great hero. Anyway, what's happening is Superman ends up fighting Krona, and he has Thor's hammer, as you'll see in cover 4 and behind me or around me. He's holding Thor's hammer and has Captain America's shield because they're fighting together to get rid of Krona and stuff. And I thought that was awesome. Superman, Captain America in the past wielded Thor's hammer, and now here you got Superman. Because remember, only a person of inner good and trustworthiness and et cetera, can lift Thor's hammer. Well, Superman should be able to lift it, in my opinion. If Cap can lift it, Superman could do it too. And I thought that was cool. And like I say, you have to read later on to find out how that turns out. So it was great. I mean, it's a really fun read. There's so much stuff happening. They're just hitting you all the time with different things. And they end up going through time, changing the timelines, and they change crossovers. They do all sorts of things in there that I think you guys will just love. But anyway, things of note also that I thought was good story-wise, besides the awesome artwork, Kurt shows a lot of differences on the Earths. Marvel Earth versus DC Earths. And it's really fun to watch because on the DC Earth, the Avengers get there and they find out that they have a Flash museum here, or maybe a Superman museum. And look, people, they applaud and want these heroes when they fly overhead. They're like paid homage to almost. It's just, they look with awe and honor to these people. JLA ends up going to Marvel's Earth, and you know what? They look at him with awe, but they're also looking at him with, who the hell are these guys? What are they doing here? They got superpowers. What are we going to do? And it's almost like they're afraid initially before they prove themselves. And I thought that was really interesting, how the differences of the universes. This is what always kept Marvel and DC kind of different, was how they portrayed their heroes. I thought it was really good that Kurt showed that. You'll find that certain cities don't exist on either universe. Mostly DC cities like Keystone City or Smallville, things like that. They're not on Marvel's Earth. So I thought that was kind of fun. So, but I like that. They had things in their brief differences about the team ups they create. They have one point where Flash versus Quicksilver. Who's really faster, Quicksilver or Flash? Well, Flash taps the Speed Force. Quicksilver gets his power from a mutant ability. Who would be faster? Who's stronger? Because Superman's up duking it out with Thor. Thor is a mystical being. He's magic, and Superman's vulnerable to magic. And Thor could probably knock him out with his hammer if he headshotted him. Who knows, right? But will Superman's heat vision destroy the magical hammer? Those are things that they kind of test a little bit. Of course, the best team up was Batman and Cap. They have to like fight each other and stuff, and later on maybe join each other. And what happens is, sorry, that was my alarm. I'm taking care of some books. Anyway, it's really fun to see what happens. So the fights were great, and the team-ups of these people in the further issues down are even better. The conversations between them and the time twists that follow were fun. I think Kurt really outdid himself because he knows both universes intimately well. I think George put in a gigantically great, stellar performance on the artwork. Now, you just cannot help but love to see this because this guy is so ultra detailed. I'm serious, man. I once read an article years ago where a guy said, I hate doing ink and George Perez. I can't remember who it was because you gotta fill in like the cracks on the little bricks and everything. You know, he doesn't skip a lot. He likes detail. He wants it to look perfect, I think, and he's a great artist. Now, the Absolute Edition, which I haven't told you about, but there was an Absolute Edition that came out, and what happens is there's 2 books in it. The first book is the main story. It's a big, thick book, and it just reprints the entire 4-part miniseries. Excellent books, oversized, makes it easy for old dudes like me to read, And the second book I thought which is why I bought it. It has the complete story of what happened 20 years ago when they first tried to do this. Because during that time, George Perez drew 21 pages that never got published. When they canceled the book, the pages went to George. Like I said, it goes to George. And he later sells them, I think, to Rob Liefeld. And then Rob Liefeld, I think, still has them. But they got reprinted in this book. They're all there, and they actually put the storyline. They run the plot with the pages so you can read what's going on. And then they tried to finalize the plot at the end because I believe it was not finished at the time the book was canceled because it never got off the ground to begin with. So they only had partial plot. But I think they have the rest of that. They have interviews. They have some articles about what happened and stuff. And just it's an all-around fun read. I always try to buy these editions where they give you the extra stuff. It's kind of like me when I used to buy DVDs a lot. They put out the Ultimate Master Condition. Like I got my favorite one was Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead had 5 different cuts of the original Dawn of the Dead movie back in the 70s. And it's awesome because each cut is a little bit different. It's fun to watch if you can put up with five copies of that. So anyway, this book is very expensive. You go on eBay, people ask a lot of money for these 2 books, and it's in a slipcase. But it's worth it, in my opinion, if you're a geek and a nerd like me, because I love having this stuff. They also released a trade paperback not long after that, and the trade came out, sold extremely well. And at the comic shop I worked at, we sold out, kept reordering, and then all of a sudden it's gone, not published anymore, which is a shame. This is a book that I think is almost up, not quite into the Watchmen thing, but I think it's something that people can read and reread, because this is back, in my opinion, during the golden age of Avengers. Back Avengers and JLA. I think when both groups are at their best. So I do know that they did release a limited edition in 2022 this year, in homage to George Perez, who was ill, and I understand that book is now very hard to get and also very expensive. But the good news is you can still get the 4 comics. 4 comics, I've seen they're selling around maybe $10 or so, maybe a little bit higher than that. But if you go on eBay, you can find sets of these and get a really good price, I'm sure, on Amazon or all the other places that you can get used books for and used comic books for. It's worth it. It's a worthwhile read. It's great. And I think this book is worth reading and it's worth owning. I think it will be a timeless classic, and it still is. I read it after, 17, 18, 19 years or so, and it just reads wonderfully. It really is. So I'm going to end this by thanking George Perez and Kurt Busiek for finally giving me this. I waited so many years for this to come out, and you guys did a great job, and I thank you again for it.